I'm David Glenn Taylor, and this is the Voyagers Podcast. Okay, try and imagine this. You are an alpine climber. You've been hiking for hours across vast glaciers that cling to the sheer sides of Denali, the highest mountain in North America. The sun is out, but it is unrelenting. The elements are brutal, and the landscape is literally indescribable. And you are getting hungry. Following your guide, you round a corner in the path, and what do you see? Or better yet, what do you smell? The scent of a hearty seafood bouillabaisse cooking out in the open. A table and stools carved out of the snow with insulated seat covers. Perfectly paired wines. And a bearded chef in polarized sunglasses orchestrating it all. If you can imagine this, you're going to love this interview. There are a lot of chefs out there doing amazing things, but I don't think you'll find anyone doing what Dave Thorne does for his job. I met Dave years ago through a colleague, and he instantly struck me as a man of perspective. His positivity was absolutely addictive, and his food is laced with love. And I'm not kidding about that. I've never met a chef who cares more about his customers' personal experience of their palate than Delicious Dave. And he has had some prestigious customers. Neil Young, Jack Johnson, President Obama, just to name a few. Dave agreed to jump on Zoom with me to dish some of this positive perspective with a hint of delight. Quick question, are you still at the chalet?
I am, yeah. I go up in 3 days.
God. Oh my God, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about, we'll get that in a bit though. But I definitely want to talk about that experience and stuff. What was the first moment that you remember you were like, that's the thing that inspired me. That's what I want to do.
I think watching Almost Famous, I had already jumped into the culinary world. That just happened on a whim. That was a beautiful mistake. But I found out what I want to do after watching Almost Famous and having a skill, but not knowing that there was already a workforce out there that was traveling with bands and feeding them. He was I believe a writer for Rolling Stones or something like that. Just him traveling with one band and just doing the whole thing really set into like, oh, that would be amazing. And then to find out that that job actually does exist.
How do you get that job?
I have no idea.
How did you get it? I mean, what was your first band that you were traveling with?
The first band I actually did a multi-gig. I was living in San Diego, and I moved to San Diego just to learn to surf. I fell into catering. This catering company that I fell into had contracts with all the San Diego concert, the amphitheater, the sports arena, Cox Arena, SDSU, whatever. So I think Britney Spears was the first one at Cox Arena that I did. Was like, oh my goodness, this is like when she was 2002 or 3.
Right. So she was
oh my God.
Yeah.
This happens. And then the Dixie Chicks come, and they actually had caterers that traveled with them because they were a headliner at that time. And usually the headliners have enough money to have caterers because they're doing like 3 to 4 concerts a week, multi-city, multi-state. And they actually was like, hey, would you come be our helper up in Bakersfield? So I drove from San Diego to Bakersfield that night in my bus, my 73 Volkswagen bus that I drove from Alaska. It's just kept touring. I went up to Bakersfield and cooked with them again and just fell in love with it. And it wouldn't be for another 4 years until I actually fell into tour catering. I came back home and worked at like a really high-end fishing lodge and worked with Jens, and then but just trying to get into this, like, send resumes to this place in Tennessee. Thank God I took this fishing lodge gig. One of the high-end clients invited me to Georgia to do a 10-day deer hunt. And I knew this company that I've been sending resumes into for 4 years was only 4 hours drive in Tennessee. So I drove after that gig, drove to Tennessee and just showed up and was like, hey, the owner here, I'd really like to talk to him. They're like, oh, you're that guy that keeps sending the resumes. And I was like, that's me. And their first question was, how easy is it to fly out of Alaska? And I was like, well, once you take your 2 or 3 dog sleds to, the nearest airport, 5 days later, I was like, I could be at the airport in 20 minutes, Seattle in 3 hours. And that's just like, they're like, oh, you don't live in igloos? I'm like, come on.
It's a common thing. I mean,
I know it is. And that just woke me up. Even me being my smart ass self was like, oh, that they actually might have believed the whole dog sled thing. And I was like, no. Like I live 20 minutes from the airport.
Oh, dude, you can't just say that. The people will totally buy that stuff. They still do.
I know. And I'm just like, we should write a movie. Anyway, so literally I left their office. They called me an hour later. We're like, hey, you want to start up with Cirque du Soleil, and you're going to go with them for 3 months and tour around North America. And
that's incredible.
You have to make it happen if you want it to happen.
Right.
That's the moral of that story. You have to chase that stuff down.
So you toured with Cirque du Soleil. I know because of conversations you and I have had before. You toured with Neil Young.
Oh yeah, he was my crescendo. He was my last
That was the last thing.
5 years, I was just cooking for one person. Up until then, for the past 7 years, you're cooking for 50 to about 250 people a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it was dramatically working with Neil was still like a 16-hour job, but only one person, where the other gigs like Foo Fighters I did 2 years ago, and it was, breakfast, lunch, and dinner every other day. And it's the most work. It's fun work, but you have to really love your job to work that hard every day. And I mean, we're in ankle deep water at Madison Square Garden because it's raining into our kitchen and draining right there, and just ridiculous. But anyway, So Neil Young, 5 years, got to travel with him all over the world and just see what it's like to be with an A star, and live that backstage lifestyle, and just see how it's like running with a president. I mean, there's security, there's movements, there's pre-planning, and it's crazy.
Did you get to know Neil at all?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, him and I'd sometimes wake up to a phone call in my hotel room. Hi, Alaska. Can I get a breakfast? And I'm like, oh, hey, morning, Neil. Sure. Yeah, I'll be right there, and, it's
so, was you were on call all the time with him?
Oh yeah. 24 hours a day. Yeah.
24 hours a day.
Luckily he has matured into his career. So all of his earlier stuff Neil still got fired. He is still he still has it, but he has calmed down and become more of a human giver instead of the individual that he, as a young person, I don't want to say ego because I didn't know him back then, but just the stuff as we grow up, how you mature and you finally okay, I'm, not partying as much and kind of realizing, I would wake up in the morning and have coffee and sit on a picnic bench in the middle of anywhere from Ireland to Iowa to the middle of Canada and just talk about life and love and what we're doing and the geography, and just he loves nature, he loves people. And I really got to see his work side, his music side, when he's writing a book, when he's there's just the many different minds of someone that was already had a man crush on growing up from his music. But to actually
surreal.
Hearing him as a human, not talking music, and he's not on stage just killing the guitar, it was amazing. It was good to get to know him on a personal level, and then I actually respect what I'm doing and who I'm cooking for, so it makes me put more into it. The more healthier and the more inspiration I put into the food, that's gonna, on a different molecular structure, go into him in an energy way. And who knows what happens, what he takes with a bite of broccoli that,
And so in that way, you kind of is that your approach with food? You feel like you're empowering people?
I don't want to say empower. I'm giving them tools to be the best human that they possibly can be. I feel like I'm taking the surroundings. I know what they did the night before. I know what, if I'm making dinner for them or breakfast or lunch, I know what the weather's going to be. I'm already I wake up and I'll see the weather. I'll look at the news. So I know he's looking at news. And there's just a formula of food and ingredients, cold, hot, clear, cloudy, what he has planned for the day. Is it a concert? Is it a non-show day? Is it healthier foods? I just kind of, there's something in my brain that makes me produce these menus that people are still just this is great. This is great. They don't have to ask for anything. we're in New York, and I went to this beautiful meat market. This is when he was still eating meat. I grabbed 6 short ribs, and I put them in this like slow cooker in my hotel room. When I go into hotel rooms, I usually rearrange it into a kitchen. So I'm looking out the window, chopping on the desk, which is really my cutting board, blah, 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 blah. So I set up this slow cooker. I bought 6 short ribs, and I braised them, seared them, braised them, and they were going. And I get a call 2 hours later. And he's like, hey, Alaska, I'm thinking about having I'm going to have some guests over for dinner. Can you be ready for that? And I was like, yeah, I got 6 going. I was like, what do you got? 1 or 2 people? He's like, I got 6 people coming over. Can we do a seafood, a meat? And I was like, brilliant. I was like, somehow like this, like just being in tune, like I was already ready for this party before he even told me about the party.
That brings something interesting because when you're traveling with a group like that and you're touring with like Neil Young, and I do want to hear some more people. I think you toured. Did you tour with Jack Johnson too?
Yeah, I did 2 years with Jack, and then he joined the Farm Aid crew, and so I got to see him in between, every year for at least a day or two, and get to hang out with Jack and family, and that's where
he lives over on the Big Island here. Is it?
Yeah, no, word has he just built a new house, kind of away from the hub of a pipeline now. Yeah. So I've actually one of his buddies were just up here. I got to cook for Billabong, came up and did their cold weather stuff, and we got to go surfing out on a couple different islands, and they hung out with Jack. They're Jack fans, and I think one of his buddies came up to the chalet too. That's on the World Surf League. I don't know. It's always this connection with Jack. Is always like somehow he's like my Kevin Bacon. Everyone's like, it's just separated from Jack by this much.
Right.
Boy.
No, I know, right? If he's listening, we got to see him. My family and I got to see him. He played a few songs that kind of, it was a gun. Remember a few years ago when they had that kind of activist, the gun rights thing after it was a massacre that had taken place. And it kind of started that movement around the country. And
sure.
And Shep Gordon, who lives here on the island, had put together a bunch of headliners and stuff to do a kind of a fundraising thing here in Kahului. And and Jack came out for it. And we had Mick Fleetwood, we had Steven Tyler play. So in fact, at one point we had Willie K on guitar, we had Steven Tyler singing, we had Mick Fleetwood on drums, Jack was playing guitar, Willie Nelson was playing next to him. I'm not joking, it was bananas. And then a bunch of other dudes too. I mean, it was like bananas. And we were standing in front of the stage watching this thing, and watching them all play and stuff, and it was just great, man. So my kids they got to see it. We listen to Jack Johnson obviously all the time here. It was cool.
Yeah, he's always on play. It's just so great how intimate they make it too. So it's just like, it's might as well been just you guys standing there with nobody. Sure. I mean, that's just how special it can be.
Sure. I wanted to ask you about a couple things about food itself. You're on if you're touring, you're going, like you said, you were in New York City, you're having to go to a meat market, you're having to go out into the cities and into the places.
Correct. Yeah.
Did you also end up kind of cooking regional foods as you went along?
Sure. So actually, it's a great segue from Jack. I did a couple tours before Jack, and with the normal thing is like head chef would wake up at 6 a.m. maybe earlier and go to, like, depending on where you're at, Piggly Wiggly's, Vaughn's, Fred Meyer, any of the big stores at Safeway. They're always there, and we'd go and fill up, like, I'm not kidding, like 6 shopping carts. There'd be like 2 or 3 just all produce. And then we'd go to the fish, because depending on the size, like WWE or F, however you remember it, the wrestling thing, they have to go to Costco. And I mean, they're cooking for 300, but they're really cooking for 600 because of the calorie and protein intake. I would go to all these stores. There's budgets, but luckily the range of seafood and meats and veggies are all fresh. You can get it all over. One of the head guys of Dega, the catering company I work for when I travel with the bands, realized that Jack brings an environmental vibe. And so we were like, what can we do as a caterer? And so him and I off season would talk, like, what can we do? And I was like, at that point, I'd figured out a couple websites that are farms all over the world that you could, like, click in their name and they're there, and it shows you what's available at what time of year. Sure. So 3 months before the tour, I saw once the schedule come up with everywhere we're going, I looked at every city, and I called probably 2 or 3 farms in every city from all over the U.S., Canada to Europe. we had farms deliver fresh, anything from poultry, beef, bison. We had one that had like the super agriculture where they actually had the fish were in the water that they were feeding the plants. So we got like their fish from there. Like, I mean, how you want to eat food fresh from the farm, available seasonally, naturally, like those 2 years, I think it was 2008 and 2010. I worked with Jack, and our goal was to get as much stuff that we can get from the farms, milk, and that's what, and that started me off. I came home and started Alaska Root Cellars, where I'd go to the farms, get stuff and sell back to the restaurants and lodges and all this stuff. And so like, he really jump-started our brain to how to shop for tours, how to be ready ahead of time. Like now Dave Matthews, Fish, there's one other people have used that same system too. So they're using all farm fresh stuff. It's a little bit more work, but it's worth it when you bite into lettuce and you barely have to put dressing on it because it tastes delicious and watery and amazing. Like, awesome. It's better for us. It's more wholesome. So, I mean, there's just so many ways to think about the food, but we started off in one area and now it's still mainline to go to the stores to pick up. We got Whole Foods, which is great to go if the budget can do that. But, we're just trying to mend a way to make it a possible convenient because of the human way we think. Like, convenience is bliss and it saves time. But at what point is the sacrifice for time and convenience?
Well, that's actually what I was kind of curious about some of your take on kind of you were kind of known as a kind of a farm guy in terms of dealing with agriculture, even in Alaska, where you're cooking now at the Sheldon Chalet. That place, I mean,
1,000 feet up on Denali, baby.
It's bananas. There was an awesome article kind of write up in Food and Wine magazine about you out there and about what you're doing, and I just was sitting there. I mean, I've been up there, right? So I've been around, the Ruth Glacier, and I've seen around and stuff and seen the scale of it. How long have you been up there now?
I think we're going on our 3rd year now.
Are you used to it, or is it still kind of one of those like jaw-dropping things for you? Well, describe the setting for us first. I mean, first describe the setting so the listeners can understand kind of what we're talking about. Because I've tried to explain to people the scale of what we're talking about, and I just can't.
Sure. So for the first 3 months, I've grown up in Alaska. I love it. I've been up in the mountains. I got up on this rock and I'd sit at my cutting board and look at the magnitude, the scale, and it was emotional, like throat swelling, tears coming out of my eye, like, holy cow, I'm up here. Like Denali, it's really, if you want to get down into it, it's the world's tallest mountain because we start at sea level. We're not at a plateau like the Cheater Everest. Any mountain climber, I respect you for climbing both of them, but let's just get down to brass tacks. Denali is the tallest, beautiful mountain in the world. But anyway, so to be 6,000 feet up, and the engineering feat of them putting the chalet in where you can flush toilets, I have running water, showers, and all these filters it goes through, the tiny bit that comes out is still drinkable water. Like after everything's said and done, like they've really thought this place out. The guests take a helicopter and land on the Nunatak, which is a rock coming out that's fully surrounded by a glacier. When they mean rock, they actually mean it's the glacier's receding, and it's really going to be a mountaintop. It'll probably be at about 6,000 to 8,000 feet once it's all been defrosted in 1,000.
Because that's how deep the Ruth Glacier is. That thick.
They're saying it is about 1.5 times the depth of Grand Canyon.
Holy crap!
If we heat up that glacier, that's how deep it's going to be.
Oh man!
Right? Like there's one wall right now that's 2 times the size of El Capitan. You pull up next to it, it looks smaller than El Capitan, but the magnitude is so big that we look across from us and you're like, oh, I can walk there. It looks about a football field. It's really 1.5 miles away, but it's so big that it looks inches. It's you can't really describe it. I don't know how to bring scale into it. But to be a lifelong Alaskan that still gets wowed at the distance and how big it is, hopefully says something.
I tell you, the first time I've been up there several times. The first time I went up there, I actually felt a little nauseated, not from the airplane ride, which was extremely smooth, We did a loop around the summit, went to the
into the
back
Great Gorge there.
Yeah. And through the gorge, I felt nauseated by the scale of it. I couldn't get it was almost like I couldn't get my bearings. You know what I mean? It was that
your
big.
wobble is gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't know wait, what?
Right. So what that article in Food and Wine really kind of made a point, and the guy, I'm assuming he was a writer, came up there. He was talking, and kind of you could tell that the thing that blew him away was just the surprising nature of what you guys were creating for the guests. He was talking about going out and doing a glacier hike and then coming around a corner and there'd be a table carved out of the ice or snow or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And you guys would be cooking up some just absolutely world-class gourmet meal right out there. I mean, and I knowing you after I was reading that, I was going, I bet you that's what Dave just loves to do, that little
100%. I mean, it's just the guides go out, and there's shovel out a round table so everyone can sit around it, and you're still in the sun. Like when you're out there, you have to put on SPF 50 because the reflection is coming everywhere from the sun.
Right.
If you're in between spring and early fall, it's just nothing but your eyeballs are so tired because they're just, I wear sunglasses all day long in the kitchen because we have nothing but windows and it's bright.
Right.
But that surprise of getting hot food sitting wrapped up in a glacier, like a king crab lettuce wrap with some sort of roasted pepper aioli, the hot and the cold and the crunch in your mouth, and your body's cold and warm in the inside. But we're just conducting a beautiful symphony for 3 days. Just we're bringing you up, we're going to bring you down low. Oh my goodness.
Right. Have you ever gotten a reaction from a guest when they come around where they're just they kind of lose they're just so elated, they just can't hold it in?
The greatest part about this, it puts everybody's ego in check, from the CEO of Milwaukee to Julia Roberts and family up there, to the normal person that's made a lot of money but just loves Denali and comes up there. Everybody is so awestruck and brought down that everyone is they're like a little kid meets I forgot what nature looked like. So it just brings everybody down to the same level, which is amazing. There's no Wi-Fi, there's nothing up there. So you get to be again. Yeah. It's summer camp meets I don't know, 4 seasons. I don't know who the best is these days, but it's it's so unassuming, and we want to give you the Alaska love with that pinky up in the air, echelons. Right. Chalet style, but Roberta always wanted the feeling that she didn't want it to be uppity. She wanted to no, you want to not struggle, but still feel like you own it, but we're not wiping your butt for you.
Right. Yeah, so because they didn't come up there to be just totally. It's not a spa. Yeah. They come up there to have a bit of that wilderness experience, right?
It's Alaska 4 stars. Right. We're still wearing our jeans,
right?
But we're giving you the 4-star tastes, the waters, the fresh juices. We're getting stuff set up from the forage from Talkeetna. We're your cranberry juice, your lingonberries, all fresh juiced. It's not ocean spray. Wow. You're getting is whatever we can do to make it fresh, healthy, but not feel like it's healthy. You're just oh my God, what's going on up here? Oh my.
It's a bit addicted for you. Are you addicted to going up and having that experience? I mean, can you imagine cooking back in a normal kitchen now?
Oh, I am. I worked really hard for 2 years up there helping figure out the system, and I got too involved to where I was getting too emotionally involved, and it really took away from the cooking. The place, the chalet has matured in everybody knows their job, and I don't have to, I can actually just cook because I was the longest standing employee, so everybody looked to me for all the answers. When I had them, it was great, but I also had to be the chef at the same time, which is all day long, just nonstop cooking, because it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner snacks, and we're not giving you pre-made stuff. We're everything's from scratch and love. So I stepped away for a minute. My father died, and then my grandma died, and so I just kind of went back inside, and I needed to feel what I needed from me, because most of my world is giving to everybody else and make sure I have enough for my kiddo, because that's the only one that really matters to me. But I finally reined it back in, and now I have that strength and the love, and I went back up there a month ago and just had such a great time, 14 days. And now I'm just going, there's only 2 people, and I'm only there for 4 days. So I can really just go up there and unload, and all my pent up frustration of like creativity and being an artist. Like, I hope they're ready to eat, because I'm ready to like just ninja attack them the whole time. Like
ninja attack
boom,
them with good
boom.
food.
Like,
Oh
yeah,
man,
like,
I think we could all use that right now. I mean, the COVID
right?
thing has, you know, I'm a bit of a foodie and I love traveling. My wife is addicted to Italy. She's addicted to, and she's addicted to good Italian food. Right. We were actually in this last fall. We went to Italy and Greece for a little bit, and we're kind of glad we kind of squeezed that trip under, because COVID has changed everything, and now there's this kind of fear. And you can feel it around the island for sure, because like I said, the food scene on Maui has exploded over the last few years, and there's just so much talent and so many great chefs doing such good work. But you see it around right now. You can feel it in kind of the whole atmosphere around the country. This fear that we're going to lose a lot of restaurants, right? We're going to lose a lot of our favorite places. You're already seeing places close permanently all over the country that some of them restaurants in New York or something that last 130 years, 140 years, and they're closing, and things are happening right now. Is there anything that you can tell me that gives me hope when it comes to foods and restaurants and the industry that we're in, or is it permanently damaged?
No, I don't think it's permanently damaged. It's the people that have been around for 100 and 140 years that weren't ready, or, you know, held strong for their like old ways, and this is the way we're doing it, we're not changing. That's great. It's a great mind frame, and I support that. There's new people that don't know anything about restaurants, and they want to open up a restaurant, and they do it. They succeed, but they weren't ready for a lack of hit. You know, I feel like most of the restaurants going up are ill-prepared financially. I've tried to open up a few myself, and I always like, there's always so much more information you should be ready for. It's those that are ready to do to-goes and be able to bounce with it. I feel like the smaller restaurants.
Mm-hmm. Are you down about it? Is it getting you down at all? The whole kind of watching restaurants go under and stuff?
I love to go out and eat. Because I'm a chef, I don't come home and cook for myself. When my kid's with me, I have a week on, week off. Week on with my kid, we're always cooking together. Yeah. He loves being in the kitchen. Like, even beginning of COVID, we started making all these little
they were
food
awesome
films and stuff. Like, just to
good.
Change the direction of like everything was just COVID. COVID was like, no, let's change our perspective. Other people gave me the idea to do all that because of COVID. You know, I mean, it's like, all right, what are we gonna do with our kids to like take the pressure off of like worrying about it? The restaurants that already have a to-go system obviously have made it, big chains. There's a few that I've seen in Anchorage that have stepped up and do really nice. If you're not ready to test batch and like you have seafood on the menu and you're given seafood to go, like nobody wants to eat or reheat seafood. Like how do you give it so you can be like, all right, just slip this in the oven. How do you make it so convenient? Here's, put it in for 5 minutes, cook it, eat it. This is what we wanted you to taste in the restaurant.
Right.
That's going to be the hard part. Or you just, you know, when they start again relaxing, you just have to know that we have these stipulations of going into a restaurant. I miss that, going to talk to my bartenders, talking to my chefs and tasting their little bites. Right now, it's over a little bit until we get a handle on it, but you know, you just got to be you and just be happy, because if you're going to be frustrated, then don't go out and like start bagging on people that are not wearing masks or are wearing masks. Like, just be happy, because that's all we need right now is just easygoing people.
I've noticed in the restaurants on the island, we've you know, and we've tried to kind of go out and eat at some of the places, the local, especially up here, we live in the upcountry. You know, there's a couple spots that are open that are regular. We try to go out and support those as much as we can, and especially support the service team. And it was interesting because one of our favorite spots in an Italian joint here in Makawao, Casanova's. I remember the first time I met the owner before this pre-COVID, just a few months before the whole COVID thing happened. And I met him. He was sitting with a bunch of friends having a bottle of wine and having a great time talking. And he was a really nice guy and everything was really cool, but he was kind of doing the owner's thing, you know? And the next time I saw him, he had a face mask on and he was sweating and he was running the entire restaurant. He was serving everyone. And it reminded me of, you know, I've done my turns in restaurants, and it reminded me just how much hard work that is, just how incredibly difficult it is to own a place and adjust, to just constantly adjusting and dealing with such slim margins, you know. And I think that maybe that's part of what I've seen is that the ones that have owners like that, they're going to make it out of this. He's just busting his ass, just working to help and supporting everybody.
Owners that aren't, they're giving up because they don't want to put in that sweat equity. a good thing about COVID is that when these owners have to go back into that limelight and actually sweat, because you forget about all the tiny details that it's easy to be an owner and still be on site every day, but until you're grabbing the plates, taking the orders, like we might see this next labor force a little bit more embodied and confident because the owners are like, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm sorry. I've been owning it for 30 years. The first time I picked up a plate and, you know, or
and that was so hard.
Yeah. I mean, they're always there to do it, but like on a, like 6 days a week or 5 days a week, like, oh, this is your brainchild. Now you have to like refeed it.
Yeah. Okay, now I get to ask you some questions that are just fun. I love talking to, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I like talking to people that are craftsmen because I like to hear, you know, what their favorite thing is. If there's a comet and it's going to hit the planet tomorrow, you know that. What are you cooking for dinner? You know, you're going to be executed for murder. I didn't want to go there. So the metaphor, the story is comet. It's coming tomorrow. Nothing you can do about it. Yeah. It's going to land in Ohio. You know,
but it's still going to have the effect all over the world. Right?
Yeah, it's not going to. Yeah, it's the size of freaking New York City.
Just a quick side question: what do you hate about Ohio that the comment is going to just like obliterate Ohio?
As a person who's lived my whole life in Alaska, you know, my adult life in Alaska and Hawaii, I have a certain amount of angst for any swing state.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
any political
right here.
Right. Every time I go to the poll to vote, I'm always like, but they don't care anyway, you know. I mean, Alaska, it's a Republican state. Hawaii is a Democrat state, you know. And so, anyway, so Ohio, they're going to take it first. And
am I eating it or am I cooking it?
Either. And if you're not cooking it, I'd like to know who is.
Oh, as long as they're a chef, I don't really have anybody like. It'd be awesome if my kiddo did it for me because finally he's cooking for me for dinner for our last night.
Nice.
And that means we're together, so that's pretty awesome.
Which is good.
Yeah, but I would say red wine braised short ribs with half pepperodali, which is the wide noodle pasta. And I want to say like horseradish mashed potatoes, but I think I just want really good regular mashed potatoes. Like I want a pasta, mashed potatoes, and the meat with just like a beautiful ladle of sauce. So it's like, yeah. And then for my side plate, I would want it. Okay. Hold on.
Go start. Yeah. That was great. I was getting really hungry, but go.
Yeah. No. So definitely, I want the pasta and the short ribs and this like red wine, like demi-glace sauce with rosemary and thyme. And then for my side plate, it's just even more slutty. I want Thanksgiving stuffing, mashed potatoes, peas, and shredded turkey, but all on the same fork at the same time.
Why at the same fork? Just out of curiosity.
Just all those together are like, just like the little bites of the peas that still have like a little bit of bite to them. Yeah. This creamy, buttery mashed potatoes, the stuffing with the bread and the rosemary, and then the turkey. Like, it's just like, it's one of my favorite bites ever. Just maybe corn too. Maybe corn and peas together.
Corn too. Have you ever made someone cry with how good your food was, or have you ever cried because you tasted something so good?
I didn't cook. I shared this. I went to a dinner for my 40th birthday, late birthday dinner. I went to Alinea in Chicago, Chef Grant. But I went to one of their, he has like a bar restaurant where you can do like a 8-pairing bar. It's called Aviary, which is amazing.
Aviary?
But this Aviary, yeah. Okay. This pear brandy, I just gave to one of my friends, and I only have a little bit left. So I just put like just a little bit in a shot glass so she can like have it taste your tongue. Her eyes watered, and she just like was like, her voice was like gone for a minute. And was like, oh man. I was like, do you like pear? And she's like, I love pear, because it's you get this pear. It's the viscosity is like a really light maple syrup, but it's pear, but it finishes like real vanilla bean and like brown sugar, just caramelized brown sugar. It is so sexy on the tongue. Like it's emotional. Like,
that sounds amazing. You have the bottle?
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to put a link to this in the show notes here. So everybody can get
as long as it's widely available. Cause if not, if there's
Where'd you find it?
two people that also joined me from Anchorage there found a bottle and bought one for me. And like, I really wish Zoom had the I can go right. Dave, smell like, I don't know where the thing is.
My goodness.
Just doing that, it almost smells like an apple Jolly Rancher when you open it. You can you can smell it when it comes out of the wrapper.
You got to tell us about cooking for the president. For those of you guys who don't know, the president in 2015 came to Alaska. He was highlighting his, it was kind of into the last part of his presidency, and he was highlighting climate change was a big part of his platform. So the president comes to Alaska, and Dave and your friend Rob got a chance to cook.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So Rob, my business partner at the time, had a connection with Alice Rogoff, who owns the newspaper, one of the newspapers up here, and is tied to New York. The president in his schedule had a choice of going somewhere, doing something else, or going to Alice's house and sitting with a couple elders from a couple different villages and I think she was a UAA administrator or a politics. I know she has the view of both, but we would know 24 hours before it was going to happen, because something with the president and schedules, they keep it loose just so people don't know what he's doing, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So somehow they chose Alice's house here in Anchorage, which is on Campbell Lake. We knew 2 days before this could happen. Luckily, we're in the heart of Alaska food, so everything growing. We could make a full 100% Alaskan meal. We did razor clams, we did moose. I think we did caribou, we did salmon, we did beets, carrots, potatoes, lettuce, carrots, beets. And I mean, it sounds like, I don't know, that's not so cool, but you've never had Alaska. Our soil is so young, everything is sweet and so beautiful.
Man. Yeah.
They're the best beets and carrots you'll ever have.
Out of the Matsu Valley? Oh, incredible.
Hands down, yeah. Even our potatoes kick the
you can say it.
Out
it's
of
okay.
Idaho. You got nothing, Idaho. I mean, you're good, and I love your starchy potatoes, but we got all the sweet. Anyway, so we got the call, and we could get all this. The family also hunted moose and had razor clams and wanted us to use it. Now, since they're not making money on this catering, we can use non-USDA food because there's no money being done and it's at the home of the person. So that's our little loophole because you can't just order moose and caribou and razor clams and stuff unless they're harvested and you have a kill shot, and it costs a lot to make that happen. We pull in, they're like, hey, entourage is coming in. I look out the window and I'm like, there is a father and son this far off the bank of the house in a fishing boat fishing. Do you feel safe about that? And they're like, you keep cooking, we'll do the security. I was like, that's Secret Service. There's guns up in that thing right there. I was like, okay, never mind, cool. I was like, it felt
I know you
weird.
guys aren't from around here,
yeah, I've seen Steven Seagal movies and Van Damme. I know how this goes out. I'm already dead. There's someone going to sniper me, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, we're cooking. We do our things. Here comes the president and the entourage. There's probably about 20 people for the appetizer. There's 12 people for dinner. I'm cooking this razor clam I'm just going to say in a beurre blanc, a white wine sauce with herbs. It's on a maybe cracker cucumber. I'm not too sure really because the day happened so fast and it was so... I don't get starstruck because at that point I was already done working with celebrities, but Obama, I was like,
I know. That's huge. Yeah.
He's the man. He's awesome. Anyway, he takes a bite of the razor clam appetizer and he looks. Everyone else is in black. Even my chef business partner, he's wearing a black chef jacket. I have a white one on. Everyone else looks like waiter, and I'm like, I feel bad. Sorry, Rob. I just didn't have a black chef jacket. And he's like, oh, hey, chef. He looks at my name. He's like, oh, Chef Dave, do you make these? Are good. It's Alice's mom, Alice, who was the host, her mom's recipe. So I kind of look at her and he's like, oh, don't be shy. And I was like, you know me, baby. And I just kind of put my arms up like this. I'm like, you know me, baby. And it's kind of nod. He's kind of winks at me and he turns back. I was like, did I just, you know me, baby, the president?
Did you really?
You know me, baby. Sorry, Mr. President. That's how I should have probably said it, but I was like, you know me, baby. I was like, I didn't know what to say because it wasn't my recipe, but I was cooking it to her liking. So I was just like, oh.
That's what you said to the President of the United States.
Yeah. You know me, baby. Exclamation point as in like, hey, maybe we should date after this. What's up? What's up? Good looking?
Right.
So we do the whole meal, and like when we're serving, we're cooking all the meats to medium rare because it's moose tenderloin, and we're not gonna not. And he has a kitchen supervisor that's just sitting in the kitchen watching everything go on. And he's like, we're just gonna pick which plate's gonna go to the president. It's not like this one's going to it because it's the most perfect because of whatever. Okay, everything's going to be medium rare. And he's like, oh, we have to have medium well for the president. I was like, sir, if I serve medium well moose to the owner, like I don't have a business after this. He's like, okay, cool. He's like, just do what you do. And I'm like, all right. Because we had a friendship and he's watching us. So he can tell what's going on. And I was like,
you tell you're not trying to hurt the president.
Yeah, we got the 12 plates out, and I was like, all right, we're ready. And I'm pointing, I'm like, medium well to this one. And he's like, all right, well, let's take this one, and we'll take this one to the president. And I was like, thanks, homie. Like, chef homie right there. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. And it worked out cool. That was the only, it's great to serve the president, but I also want a life. In the papers, like, oh, we had overcooked meat from this caterer, and I'm like, no, that's not my bag. Like,
so you're feeling that pressure though for real, right?
A little bit.
Or is that just because you're Dave and you don't really feel that kind of pressure? Was Rob feeling that pressure?
We are two different personalities. I am very laid back and love to just roll with it. And I'm like, cool, we'll make this happen. But like, I could feel from the guy that I think we have a thing going. So it's like, just cooking this one medium well because nobody else wants them. I mean, unless they specified, but they didn't. No, I think it was easy enough, but yet it's the president, so we're all still like, we're tight and like, militaristic in our non-military world.
Jeez. So at the end of the meal, you guys do photos, you do all that stuff. He leaves.
Yeah. Well, hold on.
Oh, okay. Hold on. There's more. Okay.
The best part, photo op happens. And I was like, your whole crew can take a picture of the president. I'm like, yes, let's get everyone there. I was like, I want to be next to the president for sure.
Yeah.
I own half the company. So that's my only ego demand ever.
Sure.
And Rob's like, yeah, me too. I was like, yeah, I get it. So Rob puts his arm around his waist so now we're surrounding him.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I'm late to put my arm there. So as the photos get ready to happen, I put my arm behind President Obama, excuse me. Obama, if you're listening, I know you're Hawaiian. You know me, baby. It's cool. I put my arm and I feel Rob's arm. And I'm like, for some reason I was like, ooh, that's awkward. So I go just below his arm, but it's actually the president's, I believe it's his right butt cheek. So I'm totally grabbing his ass or patting him on the ass.
Oh my God.
Right? But if you look at the photo, where's he leaning? Oh, he's leaning into me.
Oh,
that's
he's
right.
totally, he's leaning into you.
He felt that ass grab.
Yeah.
And I make that. It's my comedy bit for that piece. But I don't know if he's just like, oh, and just kind of scooted over because the opposite side of him. But it worked for the photo.
Yeah.
But so I called him baby and I grabbed his ass all in the same 6 hours.
That's stellar. I mean, what a special experience.
I love politics now. It's great.
What's pushing you, motivating you? What's the thing you're thinking about now? It doesn't even have to be about food, but what's the thing that's driving you right now? Like where is Dave Thorne in 5 years, or what do you think?
I'm a day-by-day person because as much as I want to plan 4 or 5 years, all I know is I have today, and I think I got tomorrow. But right now, my kid is just hitting 6th grade. It's a very impressionable year. So my time right now is just making sure that I have a great household, nutritionally, happily, emotionally. My time is I'm not putting away my dreams because I'm still going to if tour comes up and it's like, oh, we need you for 2 weeks, I'll go do it. But if it's for 3 months, which it normally is, I won't. But it's all about my kiddo right now because we're in a weird time. It's a weird transition. I want to make sure the great human I'm trying to raise is still
Yeah.
It's just it's a weird time. So it's not about, I'm not trying to be me. I know I need to work, and hopefully the chalet is going to keep continuing to produce that, so I don't have to worry about, I'm normally a caterer. Yeah. If I can just go up there a week or two at a time and come home and have like 2 or 3 weeks just to like throw it to my kid, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm looking just to give to my kid to make sure he's good going into the junior high school, because that's where bad male gene can come out in humans. And I think we can, he's a sweetheart. I don't think he has it, but it's a great way to make sure he's a great male human going into the future, because men can be assholes and dickheads and run the world, and I don't want that. I want a good man.
That's amazing. I'm happy for your kid, man, to have a father that's just into it.
I didn't have it. That's why I want him to have it. Be the best human you can be right now, because that's what you have. You already did yesterday and last hour. Be the best person you can be right now, because that's what we have.
Thanks, man. Thanks for taking the time. Incredible.
Dave, bro, I'm so glad you reached out.
Dave, thanks so much for taking the time, bro. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you out here sometime.
You will, bro. I promise. I promise. You'll definitely see me sooner than anybody else. I promise.
Awesome.
Mahalo, my bro.
All right, bro. Get you later.
Later.
The Voyagers podcast is produced by Sugar Sled Productions and recorded in Kula on the island of Maui. It's hosted by me, David Glenn Taylor. If you enjoyed what you heard, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It's hugely helpful in getting the word out there. And if you're interested in becoming a sponsor or in supporting this podcast, go to www.voyagerspodcast.com and click the link to become a Patreon supporter. And you can get a cool logo t-shirt or a Voyagers mug in the process. And to become a sponsor, just email me at david@voyagerspodcast.com. Next week, we leave our exploration of the palette and move into an exploration of the times that we live in. Author and former Major League Soccer star Steve Zakawani, along with my twin brother Seth, have a discussion about race, sports, and Steve's fascinating story from African immigrant to cultural influencer. That's next week on the Voyagers Podcast. Mahalo for listening, friends.